So 2020 was a great year. It was, I mean, I know there's a lot of things to say it wasn't great about with a pandemic and election and all this stuff with losing family members. But overall, it was a good year. It was a year of growth, and the business sustained and grew a little, not a little, but significantly. So I'm just grateful for all of you. And the work you're doing is needed more now than ever. So the work we're doing with these frequency-based technologies and these non-invasive modalities to help people reduce stress, help people take their health goal to the next level. And it may be overcoming a challenge, a stressor. It may be also a an existing label they've been attached to, a diagnosis, something along those lines. These systems, the frequency-based systems, from the biofeedback, the light therapy, the PMF disc, the tuning forks we're going to talk about today with Hank Satella, a friend of mine I got to know recently through Dr. Kryriak, Dr. K, Adriana, who's been on. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a great year. And thank you all for hanging in there, showing up on Fridays, having a little fun. And then what we'll do at the tail end is we'll open it up to Q&A so you can ask Hank certain things. And he's jumping on from his call he has at 10 every Friday, which I highly encourage you. Him and Dr. K do this amazing show, and I've been on it a couple of times talking about relationships, and they do it right. It's engaging. You should tune into that by following Hank and Dr. K online, and we'll share that information later. Yes, 2020 held many wonderful things, even with the pandemic. Yeah, so I'm here. Hey, Hank, you're here. Excellent. I'll get you over. Definitely. The pandemic, if you turn on the news, we're going to see everything what's wrong with the year. But I like to tend to focus on what was right, what worked, and what's the blessing of these times, which happen in life, in our cycles of life. What it does is it gives us even more of a reason to show up for people in the world, right? People need our work more than ever right now. They need it more than ever. They need to be able to reconnect, get grounded, and get their frequencies in alignment, right? More than now, more than ever. If you disagree, please disagree. But most people on here were in alignment with that. That's why you're here in the first place. But hey, Hank, how was your show? Welcome, everybody. I want to welcome Hank Satella on. Hank, we know each other through Dr. K. And you know Dr. K, she's been on a couple times on the Friday Focus. And I was honored to join them a couple months ago on their show they do. Hank, the Sonic Shaman, welcome, brother.
I am here. It says that my video can't turn on because it's disabled by the hosts. But if you can
Gosh,
tweak that,
I tweaked it.
you tweaked it.
I
Okay,
tweaked
let's
it.
see. Let's see if I can get it going. There we
You
go.
should be able to. Oh, there he is. Awesome. Hank, welcome, brother. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on. I know it was short notice in terms of prep and planning, but I think it's the beginning of a lot more to come. And with all the other offerings you're doing through the year, I'm excited to be able to partner with you and to connect and collaborate. And so, Hank, I like to start off when I have new guests on the Friday Focus to do a quick introduction. Let us know, a little bit about yourself and what brought you in to these frequency-based technologies and these healing modalities that you are going to share today.
All right. Well, I consider myself a natural intuitive, and possibly due to a near-death experience at childbirth, I always just had this knack for knowing things or to feel how other people felt. And that caused a lot of chaos in my life, especially as I was in my teenage years and things. And I started to medicate that with drinking. And for years, I just was, like I said, I was a professional drinker, been retired now from that for 12 years. And when I got sober, I started looking for something to create a framework for my awareness so it wouldn't drive me crazy. and I found an amazing place in Lilydale, New York. They had like a 2-year program, and as I went through that, a lot of the tools they gave were really focused on the mental and the spiritual side. But I really wanted to create something and create a practice for myself that addressed all levels of being, body, mind, and spirit, and something specifically for when people are brought to me from like a wife or a husband that care about the other person and they have their arms crossed and they're not really open to a
Right.
lot
They're
of
shut
things.
off. Yeah.
So I really wanted to start to look for things that were a little bit science based. So I found two bridging modalities, one of which is aromatherapy and the other is sound therapy,
Yep.
because there's a lot of, I even teach a class called The Science Behind the Sound. And it was, I got into it really to have an offering of something that could deal on everything and also be a bridge for people like my in-laws and other people that aren't open to holistic practices, that I could talk about the science of something and they could wrap their head around that, and that creates an openness to experience some of the other things that sound can do for them or other therapies could do for them.
Mm. No, wonderful, and thank you for sharing a little bit of your personal story of why you got
Yeah.
into these things and searched out. But you said something really profound in terms of for through aromatherapy and sound. And we have a lot of aromatherapists on, almost all, if not many, most of the practitioners who tune in um, incorporate multiple disciplines and modalities, one being aromatherapy. But the
Mhm.
sound, I don't think everyone's doing it. But what you said with the connection to family, in-laws, and people getting them in the door, sometimes some of our instruments, there's a wide bridge of understanding, connection, which gets them started, because we're afraid of what we don't know, right? The unknown. Fear is because we're not familiar. But through sound and these senses and smell,
Mhm.
these one of the five, two of the five senses, we can really connect. And it's a great introduction. And that's why I'm so excited to have you on, to learn more about the tuning forks, how you use those, but also to share with the audience and our practitioners how um, that analogy of what you're going to share a little bit of the resonance and the tuning fork, and what it's going to help them understand what they do better and
Mhm.
share what they do better, but also connect with you on how they can potentially in the future incorporate that in their practice too, which I know we didn't talk about. I was just thinking out loud. So share with us a little bit about, and again, the focus today is going to be on the sound therapy, the sonic, the sound
Right.
frequency, not the aroma frequencies and the things. Um, where do we begin with the tuning forks? What's the history behind these tools and instruments?
Well, the modern day application of tuning forks really started with a clinical psychologist who is also a musician called Dr. John Boyu. And he has, in my opinion, the best book on tuning forks. If people want to start with a book to read, he wrote a book called Human Tuning. And as a musician, he had this theory that the body could be tuned just like an instrument. And he went out to, he had access to a thing called an anechoic chamber, which is like a soundproof chamber that you can sit in. And he was looking to go in there, and you can perceive two frequencies if you ever have an opportunity to sit in one. One's a very high pitch frequency, which is the sound of the nervous system, and there's another pitch that's a little lower that is actually the blood coursing through the veins. You can hear both of them. And his theory was that he could go into this chamber with a tuning fork and activate a tuning fork and manipulate the frequency of the nervous system. And well, there's a backstory to this, but um, skipping that for now, he got a tuning fork, and of course, just as his theory, as he predicted, he was able to shift that, and he started playing around with all kinds of different frequencies and found the physiological benefits of using different frequencies on the body, and also doing a little bit of blood work as he did it, and discovered that different frequencies will cause a physiological response called puffing, which is a release of nitric oxide in the cells, and that release of nitric oxide has a ton of physiological benefits, from pain
Yeah.
reduction to inflammation and so on.
No, and that's beautiful. We have a lot of light therapists on too who do blue, red, and near infrared light. The whole process is triggering that release of nitric oxide and the cascade of benefits from that. And
Yep.
that doesn't surprise me that he discovered or found that frequency, light frequency, sound frequency. Again, these are all frequencies, doing their magic on the body. Um, So when did you start using it? I mean, were you introduced to these when you were searching through your journey to the tuning forks? I mean, what brought you to these modality? I know the sound, I guess the sound, like
Yeah.
you mentioned, but
Well, I
when did
was
you start integrating it into your practice?
Well, I started by I saw a class from Lilydale called Soma Energetics, and it was all with solfeggio frequencies. And I
Okay.
started with that class, but at the time, that was really more geared towards a more esoteric application of sound, like balancing energy centers and that type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of shelved it for a while because that wasn't what I was looking for. Then I took the class with Dr. John Boyer just to give tuning forks another chance, and he blew me out of the water because he talked about the science and the
Yeah.
physiology. And then that's when I started incorporating it into everything I do. Well, when people come to me, I always go on my intuition, but I would say 95% of my sessions would include some sort of tuning fork or crystal bowl or other frequency or vibration.
No, that's wonderful. And you, in your practice, and we want to talk about the frequencies and the wide variety and range, but just curious, in your practice, and you're located where exactly? Down in what part of Ohio?
My office is in North Olmsted, Ohio, and I do sessions virtually and in
Okay.
person. So if you don't think that sound, there are some things better in person, but sound still, as we're going to talk about with sympathetic resonance and some of the things, even if you're in a distance, the sound can still have a profound impact.
Absolutely. And we talked a little bit about the, obviously the acoustic tuning forks, but then you said there's some softwares that can also ping and trigger these as well, which I know some of my audience is interested in because a lot of them work in person, but also virtually too. And if they can incorporate this sound, one of the senses, one of the more, I call them tangible or frequencies, right? We
Mhm.
can hear it. We can, it's a direct frequency. It's not some of the more subtle, like even the negative and the positive, the EMF frequencies to the positive frequencies we can generate too. Um, but it's tangible. So I want to ask you just a quick question. In your sessions, how do you kind of determine where to go? Do you do a questionnaire? Do you do an intake? I mean, I'm just curious on a practitioner side of things, how do you figure out where's best, or do you just ask a few key questions and then tune in? What's that process
Yeah.
look like? I know it's different for everybody. Um,
Yeah. Well, when people book, they can put down if there's something specific they want me to incorporate, and I look to honor that if they put down something. But for the most part, I just tune in, and the way
nice.
that I explain it is the forks shine to me. Like if they're, because I have 500 different forks. If you can see
Yeah.
behind me, that's just a small amount. I have more in my office. Uh, but once I start to open the space and I start to kind of feel out what's going on in them energetically, you just kind of notice one particular fork set over another fork set, or one tool over another, and I just go with that.
No,
But
that's awesome.
but the question I do ask everybody is, if you could get anything out of today, what would it be? And that
Mm,
throws a lot of people off. But if you really think about that, usually it's a state of being, like more peace, more joy, more love, more whatever it is. And beingness is a huge thing. So then my question that I would ask myself is, what energy could I be? What tools could I incorporate that would create the most possibility around this target? And then that's what kind of is the homing signal to for the things to kind of shine to me.
oh, beautiful. That's you guys. That's why you're here. Let me just, I wrote a quick note. If you could get one thing out of today's session, what would it be? And then shut up and listen. And they're going to tell you, they're going to guide you. And then you use your repertoire of gifts, your
Mhm.
talents, your experiences, your tools, your instruments to serve. Overall, that should be the mentality and mindset for us, everybody. And that's really profound because I know by listening more, you're going to save time, energy, and you're going to find that needle in the haystack faster than sharing all the exciting things that we all have. One of the common challenges and I know Dr. K's integrated the biofeedback, Hank, into his practice, but because something is so complex and can do so many, it sometimes interferes with it doing its job and just in connecting because we get in the way. You know what I mean? The
Mhm.
practitioners get in the way of um, listening, letting it be. And I'm not criticizing everybody on here. I love you guys. We're learning here to do better, to be better, and to serve on a higher level. So with the tuning forks, I want to ask you a question about right now. I feel a lot of people need to be grounded. They need to be a little bit more grounded and um, out of the fear base into the present. What would, if I was to come and see you and say, if I could get one thing out of today, I want to feel more grounded. I want to
Mhm.
feel more grounded and not just fearing about this and COVID and politics and my health and people die. All these different things. What would you how would you use the tuning forks for someone who's floating around asking to be grounded, unconscious enough to say I want to be grounded?
Right. Well, there's some energy things I would do, but specific to tuning forks, there's a frequency of 136.1, which is the frequency of Ohm or the earth. And it comes in a weighted fork. And I don't know if I have earth right with me. One of these is earth. I'm not sure which. But oh, I happen to grab it. 136.1 is earth.
Nice.
Well, it
Someone's
was
tuned in.
yeah,
Someone's tuned in.
yeah,
There's a practice what you preach right there.
yeah.
That's
Well,
awesome.
like right there, that's just all planetary frequencies, and this is one is earth. And I don't
Okay.
know if you'll be able to hear it, but I would probably not with the microphone. But
Yeah.
the when you activate a weighted tuning fork like this, you place a stem on the body, and you can place it on the heart, and you're getting the frequency of the earth through their heart. You can place it on the third eye or the crown, placing it on the bottom of the feet, and it's bringing them into more resonance with the earth. And the earth is the most grounding thing for us because it's the physicality of reality. And
Mhm.
oftentimes we want our head to be in the clouds and having all these spiritual experiences, but there's a saying that you need to be firmly tethered to the earth in order, like the more grounded you are, the higher you can fly without losing yourself. So being
Yeah.
grounded is a great target, and an earth frequency like that is something. And for people who do this in their practice, I use this in my sessions, and people love it so much, then they want to buy a fork. And so you can also give them a tool to take home with them that they can continue to work on themselves even.
Mm. I love it. And it's the raw, oh, what do you call it? Well, acoustic. It's not a digital created. Nothing wrong with digital created frequencies, but the earth frequency, the sound, I think is just it's not that it's more pure or better or worse. It's that I think it's missing. I think it's missing in people's practices and lives. Because we're always so connected to technology, which I think isn't a bad thing either. I mean, it's all everyone's unique how they manage stress differently, but no, I love that. I love that. Can you do that one more time for us? Just hold it because you held it.
Okay. Were you able to hear it at all when I
Oh
put
yeah,
it?
we were able to hear it
Okay.
good.
All right, I'll
Yeah.
do it again.
Mhm. Ground those roots. And if you brought up a great analogy, a tree, the deeper the roots, the higher a tree can grow, right? Or the stronger the root. So that's a great
Well, and
analogy. Most
a tree
people are,
is a even more dynamic analogy. In shamanism, we look at the tree as this thing that bridges the ability to blend everything in your life and create something new, because it takes all the elements of earth, water, air, and sun,
yeah.
and it creates something new out of it. And what if you could be like the tree, being grounded yet reaching for the sky, and being able to take all the resources around you, use them to create something different? So the tree is
Yeah. Yeah.
a wonderful analogy.
No, it's a great analogy. Hank, your voice is really low. I don't know if you turned the mic down just because of the
Nope,
tuning.
I didn't. I turned all the way up. It might have been a Zoom thing too. Is that better?
That's better. And
Okay.
you've been great. It was just um, you dimmed there. So, but what Hank said, and correct me if I'm wrong, though, the tree is a great analogy for grounding, but also and explain what you can you say that again, just
Yeah.
in your
So
studies and how it connects, and it makes sense to us all for
yeah,
sure.
in my tradition of shamanism, we look at the tree as a teacher entity, being that it can take water, earth, sun, and air, and it takes all the elements of the physical plane, and it creates something new out of it. It creates itself out of these things. And so if you can be like the tree, you have the ability to take all the resources in your reality, use them, and create something different out of them. And it also is a representation of bridging between the worlds, the lower world where the roots are, the stalk of the tree, the middle world, and the leaves collecting energy from the upper world. So it's like a trifold
Nice.
metaphor.
Oh no, that's great. Well, when you were talking about the feet on the ground, and I envisioned that, it helps connect us, and that's something I think we can do as practitioners too, as we are, you know, you absorb, the practitioners have to take on and not create a safe barrier to empathize and to show that nurturing side and compassion, and get really heart-centered, mind-centered, spiritual with their clients. And I think I think the grounding force is good for them. That's all I'm saying, from
Yeah.
for all of us, all humans. But in terms of the work we do, when you're dealing in these frequencies, these, you know, consciousness, subconscious, super consciousness, that's a great frequency. So no, that's awesome. Welcome, Hank. Leah says, it's the video. Okay, cool. Now you guys, I want to just open it up. We have plenty of time here. Like, Hank, how are you doing? Are you good with us for the
Oh,
rest of the hour?
I am totally fine for however long we want to go.
Awesome. And did you guys have a good show earlier? Can
Oh,
you
it
let
was so
people
much
know what
fun.
you and Dr. K do?
Yeah, well, Dr. K is she does so many different things. She's a functional medicine doctor, a surgeon or surgeon for ankle surgery by training, does all kinds of things with biofeedback machines. And then I'm trained with sound, aromatherapy, shamanism. And we actually work together. We do energy clinics on the first and third Monday of every month. And we put our skill sets together to create a lot of dynamic change for our clients. And then
Mhm.
on every Friday at 10 o'clock, we do holistic highlights, which is just us talking about different topics like we're talking about today. Today we talked about affirmations, and we had someone on from a ketamine clinic, and it was a wonderful conversation. But you can find all that at the Emergence of Being YouTube channel, or if you go just emergenceofbeing.com under live stream, it has all the live streams I do because I do a couple different shows throughout the week.
Nice. I'm gonna post that so people can kind of get met. What was it? Emergence of
Emergence
Being.
of Being. Yep, that's the name of my center.
All right. Excellent. Nice. Beautiful. Awesome. Let me get this just sent to the people so they can stay connected. And excellent. Leah says, I'm sure this is different for each person, but how often or how soon do people need another session to maintain the tuning?
It all
Leah.
depends. Yeah, but to you already kind of knew the answer. It does vary by people. The answer to that though is the more engaged they are consciously in their own healing and doing their work and continuing to become better, the less frequent they need to come. But oftentimes, when people first start coming around, I might see a client, once a week for a couple things, and then we space it out every other week, then every month. And then there's other clients that come to see me just one time and they don't come back to see me for a year. So there's a huge variation, but it really comes down to how much are they actually staying present for their experience and starting to respond to life instead of react to life. Because the more tuned you are, you do enter a whole different space of choosing your reality instead of reacting to your reality.
Mm-hmm. And that I would have to say, even in my role in the story right now, supporting the practitioners, being here as a not just facilitating the acquirement and the integration of them through purchase to support all that stuff, but hold on, someone's trying to the Facebook stuff. I don't know if that's. I thought I streamed it, but I'm not as good as this as you, Hank, with all
Uh,
the
it
streaming
says live
stuff.
on it says live on Facebook, so
Oh, okay.
it's
Oh,
live. It's live somewhere. I don't know where you're streaming it to though.
it's live. Somebody's watching this around the world, and that's okay. There, someone's stepping into this right now, being like, "What in the world is going on?" And love it. How do they know if they are tuned? Rosa asked. That's a great question.
Well, it also depends what you're tuning. There's 500 different forks, and different practitioners are drawn to different things. So I started with solfeggio, which is really a numerology set, but they also have planet frequencies and organ frequencies. And so depending on what you're focusing on in your practice, you might be using different forks, and the meaning of that will shift for people. But
Mm-hmm.
if they have a particular thing they're working on, so say you have a lot of people with physical issues going on, there's an organ tuning set that has a healthy frequency of a liver, a healthy frequency of a pancreas, a healthy frequency of whatever. And so if you knew what's going on with them physiologically, we use the organ forks to help to bring the organs into sympathetic, healthy resonance with the healthy
Mhm.
frequency. And all that's been based on scientific research by Barbara Hero, like finding the healthy frequency of different organs. So that's one approach. Or if you're working more with the chakras, there's chakra frequencies and use that. And you can tell once you start using the forks, you'll be able to tell when you activate it that it sounds off, and you know from the way it sounds that that particular chakra is really out of resonance. And by the
Mhm.
end of the session, the fork is just singing and the tone completely shifts. And that's how you know that that chakra is now operating within that spectrum of health.
Mhm. No, wonderful. Thanks, Hank, for explaining that. There are in the program, everybody, the software, there are some, well, the Savaggio frequencies. There's also some organ frequencies based off the acoustics for which Hank is talking about, these actual tuning forks. So,
Mhm.
and I'm not going to get into that, but I'm just letting you know for the biofeedback users, there's some cool programs that we can share, and that's something I'll make a note of just because um, that's awesome. Let me ask you, who was the author of Human Tuning again? What was his
Yeah,
name?
his name is Dr. John Boyu, and he's written several books, but that's by far the best one. And his main set that he promotes is called the Solar Harmonic Spectrum, which some people criticize now because his whole set was based on a frequency of the ionosphere, the Schumann resonance. And so
Mm-hmm.
he picked 8 cycles per second to build his tuning fork set as a like the fundamental starting tone. And
Mm-hmm.
if you look in the news and science sites, the ionosphere, the Schumann resonance has been shifting, and it's been going off the charts from what it used to be. So some
Mm-hmm.
say that it's not relevant, but I feel that it's a wonderful set to start with, nonetheless.
Oh, nice. Thank you for that wisdom and how people can do it. So, is there anything um, that you'd like to share about the tuning forks? Just I want to open it up to questions. I want to get some feedback in terms of. I've got some other questions specifically, like the grounding one and things, but I want to open it up. Does anybody want any specific questions answered? That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
And is there anything you want to share, Hank? You can go ahead as you wish.
Well, for one, if you go to hanksuttala.com, there's a link to my web store, and I do sell tuning forks, and they're all made by MetaVibe, about a 4 week backlog. But on a lot of the tuning forks on the pages, because I saw someone ask about frequency lists, on a lot of the forks, if it's not proprietary, I have a chart that shows like what each frequency is, like for the organ forks and things. And if you need a certain frequency, if you email me, I can probably get the frequency for you. Because if you have just a frequency, if you wanted to see if sound is right for you, if you go on your phone apps, Android or iPhones, or if you go to audacity.com, which is a free sound program, there's programs where you just put in the hertz frequency that you would like, and it will generate the tone. You lose a little bit of the benefit of harmonics, but if you needed a healthy
Mm-hmm.
frequency of a liver, you could put that tone in for the liver, and it's going to project that tone, and you could just play that in the background. It's not as pleasing as a tuning fork that's getting overtones and things, but it definitely would
Yeah.
still create that sympathetic resonance. So that's a great way for people to kind of test the waters, if you will.
No, that's awesome. And that's comparable to the biofeedback or any other digital things. It's a digital represent. It's different than what is the difference? You touched on it there, but there, from my understanding, there's a difference between, like you said, the overtones or the tone, the tuning, or between the
Mhm.
acoustic and a digital. Is there
Yeah.
do you is that correct, or what would you say
It's
on
a
that?
whole world of difference, which is also why it's important if you are going to get into tuning forks. There's certain things that you look for and certain things you avoid. Like this is a machined fork. You can see that it has a real smooth finish and everything. I'm not sure if I have a cast fork here. I usually have one running around for purposes of demonstrating. Here we go. This is a cast fork. I don't know if you can really see the difference, but it's a completely different makeup. It's made a different way, and the machined forks have better overtones. They last longer because when you strike a fork, it lasts a certain time, and then you have to strike it again. A machine fork typically lasts longer. A cast fork doesn't. And when you tap two forks together, two forks that are machined create many overtones and different harmonics. Where if it's cast fork, it doesn't create as many. And Dr. John Boyu believes, and I agree from my own experience, that a lot of the more esoteric healing occurs in the tone between the tones, and all these little harmonics and these sounds interplaying with one another when you're using two forks together. And the quality of the fork is so important in that case. So you really want to make sure it's machine versus cast. And an aluminum alloy, if you get a steel fork, it's almost only the fundamental tone. And in healing, we want the opposite of that. You want the aluminum alloy that's going to create the rich overtones and almost like a symphony of little micro harmonics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice. I follow that. I follow that. I posted Hank's site. You guys go there. He's revamping it, but there's all his connections and YouTube account, Facebook, how you can tune in. I love it. I
You can tune
people,
in. I like that.
yeah, yeah. I'm so cheesy. It was like I obviously didn't spend a lot of time, marketing you on. All right, we'd have like 10 times the people on, but the the thing I sent out was like, yeah, tune in, and anyway, it was pretty lame. Most of you are probably like, oh, Jake, you gotta go back to some copywriting class or something. But it's no, it's awesome to have you, and this is fascinating. Rosa, and it's so relevant in all the work we do. And I know that many of the people, I bet everybody on has heard of or is familiar with tuning forks, but I don't think we've ever discussed them and how I think engaging and connecting it can be if you're in the work of frequency medicine. Carry a couple to having a set of tuning forks, connecting the dots. When people can hear that, using that physical sense, I mean, it transforms a belief right away. For say some of the skeptical more people you're working with, but for the people your already existing clients, they get it, they're going to receive it, and it's going to be an easy integration. Rosa asks, I was wondering if we could hear 528.
I can get it, I
Is that
think.
is that love? Is that the heart? Is that
Depends who you ask.
depends who you ask.
Yep. So there's some that say it's the love frequency. There's some that say that the love frequency is 432. There's some
Mhm.
that say the love frequency is Earth 136.1 because it's also for the heart chakra in the chakras system that where they based the tuning forks off of. So it really depends.
Yeah,
528, I will say, is also considered the DNA repair fork.
yeah,
There's been clinical studies that frequency in labs and things, it created the absorption rate of cells, and they jumped and said it's a DNA repair fork, which the research doesn't really show that, but I definitely like using it. There's actually DNA forks if you're looking for DNA things. But this is 582. Wait, you said 528.
it's
See,
528.
I had a custom set of solfeggio tuning forks made, so I had the inverse frequencies as well. So 528 is this one. And let's see if my audio got all weird again. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you good. Yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So that's 528, and then the solfeggio, they correlate all the solfeggio frequencies to the chakras. And 528, I believe they have it as ut, re, mi. So it would be root, sacral, solar plexus. They would have it. But if you go based on a 9-piece solfeggio set, this would be for the heart. So
Right,
again, it
right.
depends on who you ask, and everybody has their own points of view about it. But one thing I like to say is tuning forks, they all have their niches, but any fork can do anything if you have the unwavering intention behind it. Some have different niches, just like everybody could throw a baseball. Not everybody could throw a baseball 100 miles per hour and hit a square this big. So
Yeah.
just think of forks like that. If you don't have the right fork for what you're looking to do, if you do have a fork, you say, fork, your job is, and though it might not be its niche, you can still use, one fork for a different purpose and vice versa.
Mhm. Yeah, no, no. Very well. Then that helps get out of having to be so critical or selective where it limits the use of anything, and
Right.
that's they get that. But no, yeah, Rosa, that DNA correction, you were right there. You guys said it at the same time. Um,
Yep.
Wani, hi Wani. Do you only strike the tuning fork on your body part? Question mark. Or does it make any difference striking it on our body part versus striking it on an activator to activate the vibration?
No, you can use either. I don't particularly care for activators because the tone is so loud that if you're going to be going anywhere close to the ears, it can be very intense for the person. Typically, I just do a light knee tap if and then get it vibrating. Or this is the finger pull technique. You just push your fingers and pull it real quick, and you can create the activation that way. But if you're going to go close to the ears, you want to be really mindful of how hard you strike it. And then
Mm.
in the case where you're doing two forks together, like that's why I like solfeggio and the mirror solfeggio. I had that set custom made. You use the two forks together. I like activating them slightly because they're already vibrating. It's almost bouncing them off each other like a trampoline at the 90-degree angles. And then when you use two forks, then you get the overtones and you can use them in the energy field and you create a whole different dynamic and effect with the tuning
Yeah,
forks that way.
that's awesome. We could hear that really well, actually. I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
I invested in a really good microphone because I do sound work.
oh no, totally. And even that, it kind of tweaked it when you did the first one. Remember, it kind of
Yeah.
adjusted the audio. So no, I could imagine. I sometimes will get feedback and stuff with my own set, and so with those forks. Rosa said my head was shaking. I don't know exactly what you were referring to. Was that the previous? I think 528. I think is what we did. Naomi, hi Naomi. Naomi is an acupuncturist, biofeedback practitioner in Oregon.
Mhm.
Um, and her and her husband Doug, they collaborate. Great couple out there. She asked, "What is a salvaggio?" And I know there's a wide scope of different understanding of all these different frequency, categories. But can you explain that to us? What is a
Okay.
salvaggio frequency?
Solfeggio is, well,
Solfeggio.
I have my own point of view on this, so I will tell you what it's marketed as, and then I'll tell you my thought on it.
Okay.
Solfeggio is marketed as like it was discovered by David Holtz or someone that David knew, I forget which, but they took numerology passages in the Bible and they broke down like this one set into these different frequencies, and each frequency breaks down to a three, a six, or a nine. And they say that there are these like lost tones that the church was trying to hide to prevent people from being empowered and things. It's like the notes used in the hymn to John the Baptist and whatnot. But the thing is that solfeggio truly meant like the first note ut, that meant tonic note. And way back, it was all meant to, you would meditate or get very mindful and you would ask, what is the note for today? And that ut became the tonic note for you to tune all the rest of your instruments. So true solfeggio is actually not possible in tuning forks because every day it's different. What
Mm,
is marketed as a solfeggio set is truly a numerology set because every single combination breaks down to a three, a six, or a nine. Three, six, nine. There's these combination patterns that develop from the set that are all numerology based. And I believe Tesla had even said if you understand the magic of 369, you could unravel the meaning of the universe or something to that effect.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so truly, it's a numerology set, in my opinion, but it's referencing like these lost tones hidden by the church, quote unquote.
Got it. Got it. So there's a story built behind it,
Right.
obviously, and that's where these come from. So I always like to, there's an old saying, and it's pretty cliche that, the truth is,
Subjective.
somewhere in the middle, that
Yeah.
saying of, there's so, but no, that's awesome. I hope that
They're
answers your
definitely potent.
question.
Yeah, they're definitely potent frequencies. And that's one reason I had custom frequencies made because instead of 528, I also have 582. When you use the combination, the difference always breaks down to a nine, which further is in line with the numerology. It's like a completion number.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really like a numerology set in steroids for me when you get both sets.
No, that's great. Let me ask a question here. Have you used these in? I know I joined you and Dr. K on a call where you guys were doing a series of relationships, and um, I going through my personal stuff right in the past few months with my sisters and that saying goodbye and the family dynamics and the what frequency and how we were at each other's throats. People were saying one person wasn't doing enough, and we've come together again after the saying goodbye. But I want to ask it's a personal question, but it's something I think can help everybody. What would be a good frequency? And I can guess from my understanding of the chakras but what would be a good feeling frequency for coming together and peace and harmony? And I, like you said, I know everyone. The grounding one would probably be great too.
Mhm.
But out of if I was to come and answer the question, if I could get anything out of today, it would be to have more peace in my family unit and the communication being, peaceful. what would you use? What would you do, Hank?
Well, for someone going through extreme grief, there's one aromatherapy thing I would mention is rose. If you diffuse rose or even rose
Yes.
absolute, because
Yeah.
rose is so expensive, that is it profoundly shifts people's thing. It's the most high vibration oil available, 350 plus different chemical components. And when my grandfather died, he actually had committed suicide. And I traveled up to Alaska and I brought all these little inhalers, like from Vicks Vapor Rub. You would open it up, and I gave them out to all the family members, so they all had like this little hit of rose to be able to process a
Nice.
little bit better. But from a sound perspective, there's one called the Crystal Tuner, which is 4,096 hertz, and
Mhm.
that's a C. And then there's a D and the E, and they call that particular set angel tuners. And what I have found that if people are really looking to connect with loved ones or looking to connect with guides, angels, and things, that combination of frequencies really shifts their ability to recognize that relationships never end; they just change form, because
Mm,
it changes their vibration and brings them into a space where a different type of communication can start to occur with their loved one, and that
mm.
can bring a lot of peace and solace.
Yeah, and that's unfolding naturally already. Like, I mean, that's what's unfolding in the process. But that's awesome. Um, thank you, brother.
Mhm.
That was a personal question, and I'm gonna take that up. I'm gonna get some rose oil when I go back, and I'm gonna be having
Yep.
everybody take a hit of it.
Yeah,
So,
just rose absolute will save you a lot of money. You don't need the full rose essential oil because that's like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But rose
oh, is it?
absolute,
Is it?
it's
Yeah.
just a little bit of a different distillation process because they
Okay.
use an ethanol, but that will save you a ton of money and it will be just as effective.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, it's not something you use year round, right? I mean,
No,
around your
well,
neck.
just a little bottle of true rose essential oil will cost hundreds of dollars because it takes the drops of 36 roses, petals from 36 roses to make one drop. So you can imagine how expensive roses are. A lot goes into those oils, and that's why the price can get pretty high if you're getting a pure oil.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, interesting. I don't know if I've smelled rose before, but I don't know if I've ever had it. You're right, a bottle of rose oil. So,
Right.
here's a couple good questions. Thank you, Hank. Appreciate it,
Mhm.
brother. Yeah, the world needs something to release all the anger people are holding and sharing. For sure. The duality of this left, right, you, me that we're going on right now, and the anger. Um, what's a good frequency fork you'd use for that?
If you're finding yourself getting caught up in judging what's going on in the world, something with binaural beats like brain tuner frequencies are there's a set of six tuning forks. There's one fundamental fork, and then there's four that are just slight variations from the fundamental that you can put one fork on each side of the ear, and it creates a binaural beat to put you into theta, to put you into delta or alpha or beta, whatever brainwave that you like. And then there's a weighted gamma fork that you can get as well. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're finding your space in a space where you're looking at the world as a duality thing, getting yourself into theta will put you more into looking at it through oneality. And so the kind of the mindset of you see, even though there's this apparent perceived conflict and everything, putting yourself in a space of theta, if you could look at it through everything happening in the world is just an interesting point of view and taking the charge off of it, you can actually start holding the space for change to occur in the world. But when we align and agree with or resist and react to what we're perceiving in the world, we're creating the duality law of for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we're in judgment, we're feeding more of that. In the place of allowance, you're just letting it be, but it doesn't mean that you don't choose things that are going to change the world. But if you choose things that are not creating a tension with the other side or whatnot, it creates a
Mm-hmm.
space for both to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a
Yeah.
long-winded answer, but binaural beats would probably be the best thing to get yourself into a place where your brain could experience a different possibility of what you're perceiving
Yeah.
in the world.
No, beautiful explanation. You kidding me? Listen to that again for those of you. Go back and rewind that. Listen to what he said there. That's a lesson we all can incorporate into our own lives, but also that can come in with many different stressors that walk through your door and you sit and address with. Go back and listen to what Hank just said there, and that's a wonderful, wonderful mindset into um, how you can change. And then practical theta, get them into theta, help them
Mhm,
with
mhm.
theta. Use these tools. There's a theta button on the skios and the deductors. There's the tuning forks. There's the sounds. The bind. So yeah. What is the Oh, real quick question that someone asked. What was the free app frequency that you mentioned before that you could
But
kind of plug in a hertz frequency and it
Yeah.
generates.
Well, I'm sure there's a ton of different free tone generators available on any device that you have. But the one that I personally used, it's a program you download to your PC. It's called Audacity. And it's neat because you could import music tracks and you could put binaural beats underneath tracks. You could
Oh, okay.
shift the tone. Like if you have a favorite piece and it's in 440, you could upload it in there and change the tuning to 432. So there's a bit of a learning curve with using it, but it's a very robust free program to incorporate sound things. But if
Nice.
you're just looking to generate a tone, any app you find on your iPhone or Android device will probably do the job. Audacity is taking it up a notch if you really want to start diving in and playing with sound
Hmm.
frequencies and
But
adding things
so
into
just
tracks.
look it up. I'm sure you're going to find there's many tone generators. Is
Yep,
the
audacity.org. I saw someone with a comment. You have the right website. It's a free download. It's like a shareware program.
Yep. Awesome. Love it, man. Give you about sharing our tools, sharing how you can play with frequencies better and being more aware of it. Um, let's see here. Yes, we have clients come in that are so angry. Da da da. Jake, hi Jake. Can you please confirm the frequency for grief? Again, Hank, what was it for?
Yeah, for the crystal tuner, 4096 hertz. And that is part of Dr. John Boyu's solar harmonic spectrum. It's like a high octave of the one of the ionosphere ones, and it's think of it like energetic sage for anybody who is familiar with saging a house because of negative energy and all that kind of stuff. It is a frequency that flings out negative energies. It's also if you have a chakra or energy system or an organ that feels congested, you can use a crystal tuner, and that high frequency is going to start to break up the dense heavy energy so it can flow. So a crystal tuner all around for anything that's stuck, stagnant, or heavy is a fork that will help to transmute that energy, and including grief.
No, that's awesome. The energetic sage, everybody. I wish I had that in my house growing up instead of my mom ripping sage through my windows and doors once a week. And we are like, gosh, mom, our friends would come over. We'd be embarrassed because the place was blown out with sage. Actually, probably not because my friends' parents were probably doing the same thing in Hippie Boulder. So it's all good. But no, that's awesome. That's excellent. That's wisdom. Uh, no, 4,096 hertz. So
Right.
4096. Is that correct?
Correct. And that one in particular, they call it the crystal tuner because they usually will use it and activate it off a crystal. And then you could even direct the frequency of the tuning fork through the crystal and clearing the space.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. All right. I'm just going to check and see if there's any more questions. We've got about 10 more minutes, you guys. Do you use gemstones on your tuning forks? Benet asks. Hi, Benet. How are you?
Occasionally, like if you work, I have a whole bunch of crystals that I do incorporate into healing sessions. Not always do I do it with gemstones, but if you were, you would use it with an osteophonic fork. You would activate it, place the crystal on the body, and then place the vibrating fork on the crystal, and then you're sending the vibration of the fork through the crystal, and then they're getting the benefit of getting a little bit of the vibration of that gemstone in addition to the fork. They also sell, though, I think they're really overpriced for what they are. They have these little gem feet that you can get. They're like $80 retail, and it will have like a little rounded piece of quartz, and you can activate it, and then it's actually stuck to the fork. And that might be relevant for the people who are doing acupuncture. You can use an osteophonic fork, which just means to vibrate bone. I don't want to get too scientific, but
No, osteo. Yeah,
yeah,
I
but the
know.
osteophonic forks, if you're going to be using like one fork specifically with pressure points, acupressure points, you could activate the fork, and then it's a little bit more relevant if you wanted the crystal on there and sticking to it because you're activating it, going to another spot, activating it, going to another spot. It
Mm-hmm.
might be helpful to have the gem fork, but in general application, any crystal will do. Just put it on, activate, and then touch the fork to the crystal.
Nice. So, where can people go again to learn about forks on you? Where they can get them through you if they're interested.
Yep. Yeah, the store site is holistichealthandhealing.net. That's my web store. It's also linked for my personal page. But everything I create is through MetaVibe. All forks are made to order, which is one reason we're a little bit backlogged right now because with the pandemic, a lot of people are waking up and there's a new hunger and demand for this type of stuff. So they've had a huge increase in orders and they're kind of playing catch up. Something like a crystal tuner or solfeggio probably is in stock and we can just ship out. But most of the forks that are sold, we make them to order as people want them because not everybody's going out to buy an organ set, for example. So normally that's not one that's in stock and we'll create it. And if it's something we don't have in stock, it's about a 3-week backlog right now. But if you, on the website, I do have the code WAIT20. So if you do want forks and you're willing to wait for them, it's 20% off right now because I know it is a huge
What
backlog.
is the site again? I'm just going to go there, make
Yeah,
sure I have the right one before I
yeah.
pull it up.
My store site specifically is holistichealthandhealing.net, and I have both my aromatherapy product line on there as well as the tuning forks. And the weight code is only good for the tuning forks currently. Just in case you're trying to get a discount on rose oil, it doesn't apply because that stuff will ship out the next day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Oh, excellent. Yeah. And you guys, to have these in your repertoire is it again, there's multiple reasons. And I don't have to tell you, but I'm going to remind you. One is you're offering that really direct frequency, sound frequency, one of those, I call them the five sense, obviously they're going to feel it, they're going to hear it, they're going to engage. It's going to help you also share how you use your other energetic tools when they can relate to that frequency. And then it differentiates you, it gives you more differentiation in the marketplace. You're doing something new in the new year that you've discovered, so consider it. And when I know that my chiropractor and some of my healthcare providers, massage therapists, they're like, hey, I'm learning a new technique, or I'm looking into doing this to the practice, or we may be adding, infrared light or these different things. It's engaging. It means, you know what, they're reinvesting in themselves, how to better serve. I'm going to step up to the plate too. And your best clients are going to do the same. They want to see you evolve and add things that make sense for you. Of course, it's not about buying everything that's exposed to, or you won't be able to do anything right.
Yep. Two things to add. I wasn't even, when you invited me on, I wasn't even thinking about selling forks, honestly. But since I'm bringing that up.
No. Yeah, there was no intention. And you
No,
guys,
I
just so
know.
you know, this is unsolicited. I'm here to, as you can tell, Hank has a wealth of study and knowledge. Not any practices what he preaches. This is the real deal when it comes to the frequency stuff. So no, we never discussed this, but I'm curious because I want to know how much they cost, things like this, so I can help people
Well,
answer
two
questions.
things. If you're looking to get into forks, one thing that I offer, I call it a buying appointment, where it's like a 30-minute Zoom, and you give me a list of what you might be interested in. Because what I found, when people come locally and they want to check out forks to find what they buy, they end up with a set they never even knew existed. And so there might be, if you want to have a little bit of playtime before choosing what might be right for you, we can do a Zoom and you can experience some of the sounds remotely, and then choose what might create the most for your practice, kind of consulting to see how tuning forks are best fit into what you do. And then the cost of that goes towards your forks. So it's like not money lost, it's money invested towards whatever you're going to pick, but also honoring my time if you don't buy anything. So there is that. And then the other thing, in terms of cost, they vary wildly in terms of, like, some things like a crystal tuner is really cheap. It's like $30 for a crystal tuner. Economies of scale, there's a lot of those in production. An organ set will be a little bit more, but if you're buying just an individual fork by itself, on average, it's like $35 for an individual fork unweighted, and 55 to 65 for a weighted fork, depending on the blank that it's coming out of.
Yeah, start with a few, you guys, and that take Hank up on that offer. That's amazing, because even if you don't get a set or a fork or something, what you're going to do is understand how those forks could be used in your practice, which is unique, right? That's
Yep.
unique from my dad's, is unique from Carol's, which is
Right.
unique from Sue's. And so do you work more in the metaphysical, that range, emotional, psychological, spiritual? Are you dealing with organ systems more in the medical? So
Or people
Get
with
it right.
addictions, Fibonacci is a great set because Fibonacci deals with microharmonics and it helps people get in touch with that inner spark, which is sometimes the lifeline they need to pull themselves out. So depending what kind of clients you're seeing, there really could be a lot of different variations. And if anybody's interested in offering forks for sale, I do wholesale too. So if you have a reseller's license, we can set you up with a wholesale account, and
Beautiful.
that's a whole nother world of possibility because so many people buy forks from me after experiencing them in a session. So that could just be another offering because that gives them something to do when they go home. They got their energetic sage fork that they can clear their space, or their own fork for grounding, or a
Oh,
binaural beat fork for getting into theta, whatever the case is.
that's awesome. And the focus call, just Hank, as we get to know each other more and work closer in the future, um, this is a call to answer questions, bring new ideas, do tech support sometimes, but also help support the business builders, the ones out there, the entrepreneurs in the field, become successful. Success is defined success is not the best word. You can define it many different ways, but if you're in alignment with your service, the intention of what you want to create in your mission, in your practice, you're going to need to create value not only for the world and your people, but also bring it back into your own life, and whatever that is. If it's one person a week your goal, or 10, or your full-time practice, part of that is having relationships with products, with people, with companies, that you see in alignment with offering better service and also increased profit. Without profit, you can't serve, and it's a good thing to strive for, so you can help
Right.
reinvest it back into your life, into the people you serve. And my dad's formulas, the different product, you're going to have these products, and something like that is frequency medicine, something like that. That's a beautiful gift. Consider the wholesale opportunity. Like I didn't know that before this, and I'm just letting people, Hank, that
Yep, I know.
this is about supporting the practice side of things as well, in alignment with all their goals. And the forks I never even thought about until right
Right.
now. And
Yeah. And I'm huge on one of my slogans for one of my companies is cooperation, not competition. And especially, we're all
yeah,
here to service the same, globe of humanity. And what can we do to collaborate with another to create more possibility? I'm huge with that. So if you're resonating with me and there's something that we might be able to do together, I'm also very open to seeing what could we create together in
yep,
that
yep,
in that same spirit. Because just like Jake and I are here doing
yep.
this, like what else is possible, really?
No, that's great. I a while back, Hank, I interviewed, like, when I worked for this company called the Quantum Alliance. We did a Greg Braden was releasing his book. I forget the name of the book, but it was part of a chapter of it. In there was this, how we we need to move into that collaborative, co-operational, um, status versus the competition. Now, I don't believe competition is bad in some forms. Healthy competition between my son and I, when we're out on the track racing, to strive to be better and push each other. That
Well,
athletics.
but look
There's
at the
two
goal
different.
there. The goal there
Yeah.
is to strive and push each other. Where a competition in the marketplace, sometimes there's
Yes.
a term from Osho's work: blue ocean and red ocean. Competition's red ocean; it's stabbing each other in the ocean. Where blue
Mm,
ocean is the collaboration. It's like, what can we really do to create? And one is a abundance mindset. There's enough for everyone, and one is a scarcity. I need to compete because resources are limited, and if I
right.
don't get it, that means and it's all about the energy and the space you're holding while you're creating the opportunities and things that you're creating.
Very important lesson. Very, take that home, everybody. When you're talking about session fees or packages and things, hold that space and that true to the value, and you'll attract that. People will see that, and you know scarcity breeds scarcity. So
Mhm.
okay, there's some questions here. So if you guys need to go, I want to honor you at the top of the hour. We're
Nope,
going to
I'm good.
wrap it up. But I'm going to answer the questions. I just want to give permission, if you got to get to your appointments or do your thing. I'm so grateful you showed up. Thanks for showing up and supporting the Friday Focus, and definitely stay in connection with Hank. And he'll be he's in the ether out there. Search him out with those websites that you have. Okay, what is the difference between weighted and an unweighted fork?
It's literally weighted and unweighted. So weighted, they have these little weights on the top that when you activate it, you're not going to hear it as much audibly. You can, but it's more about the vibration and putting the stem on the body for
Yeah.
body work. and
Okay.
they're especially good in combination. There's a book called Acupressure Potent Points or something of that nature. I use it all the time. It's a real quick reference to see what points on the body would relate to sciatica or headaches or stress or whatever the case is. And using like a ohm fork or a similar fork going on those pressure points, you get a whole nother level of benefit because it's not just audible when we're talking about tuning forks. It's all about the vibration. And some
Right.
things it's more about the etheric field, and these are more about the body work and being able to
Hmm.
work on the body.
Yep. Yep. And many people on here probably had him done. I've had him done with some amazing, like, you know, like almost I got Rolfed back in Colorado when I was like, I don't know, 25, 26. My body was broken from football, and I had a Rolfing session, like 5 or 6. It was like a, you know, Rolfing, but they were using tuning forks to reset me. And it was like, I didn't really know what they were doing because I never really asked or saw, but that's what it was. And there were those weighted ones that drive it deeper. Um, Excellent. Awesome, Sandra. Thanks for staying on. Is Theta, let me go back up real quick and try to honor the order here. Sandra said, just found the site. Thank you. Oh, if cleaning the forks, what do you use for cleaning the forks when using in your practice if they get dirty?
No, yeah, I don't know if the forks have ever gotten dirty. Like I would
Right,
just,
right, right.
I have Florida water, and if I feel the need to like wipe down a fork, I would just use Florida water, which is a cologne. Well, I get the one from Peru, but it's like an alcohol based cologne that we use for cleansing and spiritual things.
Mm-hmm.
And I might feel more the need to clear things energetically than I would like physically. But with coronavirus and all that, if you were using a fork on someone's body, then it might be appropriate to wipe that down with anything that would sanitize. But I've never had them
Yeah.
tarnish or anything like that.
Yeah, and if you're putting them on the skin, on the body with certain things, yeah, use your common sense and clean them with a um, natural disinfectant. I know for the harnesses, everybody, the seventh generation wipes. We don't do heavy Lysol type, chlorine based stuff. Seventh generation wipes you could do. You could just get a little bit of warm water probably and clean it too. So
Yep.
um, let's see, what's the difference between weighted and unweighted? Thank you. Great question, Sue. Thank you. What is the difference between weighted? Okay, that's the same question. Um, is theta the best choice for depression? If a person swings between depression and anxiety, any suggestions?
Well, theta may help them get into a different mindset. The crystal tuner could be good for that too. What my experience with depression and things is oftentimes they could be empaths, and meaning that they have awarenesses of other things. And
Yeah.
sometimes we misidentify other people's stuff as our own stuff. And like really giving them a tool to start asking, is it mine even,
Yeah.
and start to
Yeah.
differentiate what's theirs and what's not. And the crystal tuner is a great thing to energetically cling out things that aren't theirs so they then can start dealing with what is theirs. But there's so many different causes and things. It might be a heart-based thing. They need to be in their body more and you want to ground them. It will vary a little bit person by person, but the crystal tuner may be good. Theta may be good. The ohm frequency might be good. They might just need a whole energetic chakra balancing, because what if it's their solar plexus, holding in everybody's thing, but it's because of their bleeding heart getting drawn into everybody's trauma and drama. And it's a combination of things that's occurring that's then causing them to feel out of sorts.
Hmm. Usually it's not just, one thing. We know this, we're not, depression is a really vague, it's like stress,
Yeah.
right? It's like these labels they want to stick on someone. So look deeper. But no, great question. And I appreciate the questions. So I don't see any more questions. Hank, it's been amazing, brother. This is Jen Anthony, is a brand new practitioner. She's getting into this work. I'm working with you later, Jen. Um, to kind of give this perspective and things for us all, it's just amazing. And the wisdom you did as a practitioner too, there's gems within this entire focus. And I want to thank everybody for being on. And Hank, I'll give you the closing words. Is there anything you'd like to say or close with?
No, I think that the greatest tool as healers is our own voice and our breath. The Barbara Sanson, who is a great influence on me, she said the breath is the first and last possession you have in this life. And all the tools, tuning forks, biofeedback, all that is great. But the space that you hold and the things that you do with your own words and voice can be the greatest impact and empower people to know that they know that they know. Ask questions, except for why. Why is the one trigger question that loops you? But really getting people to ask questions starts to shift them into different possibilities, and all the other tools for me just kind of supplement and help out. people start
Oh,
to step into their own awareness.
no, wonderful. And that great way to wrap up. Everybody have a great weekend. Give us a call, contact Hank, Hank Satella at hanksatella.com. And these other links are up here in the chat, which you can review. I'm going to post this today on White Dove Training. It's also on Facebook Live. We're live. So if you want to go to White Dove Global and watch it again, um, it's there. So, Hank, thanks a lot, brother. I appreciate it so much. Have a great
You're
weekend.
very welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.